rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Happy Easter Eve to everyone who, of course, celebrates Easter and the rising of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He is risen. He is risen. He is risen indeed. And he will come again when he is ready, when everything has been taken care of in terms of his prophecy. So there you go. I'm looking forward to tomorrow, mainly just because of the fact that, you know, it's a holiday. It's one of the two best holidays of the year. One of the two holidays that I actually do not fly, or generally do not fly, an American flag. I will be putting up my Christian flag up tomorrow on the pole because of the fact that he is risen, that our Lord and Savior has risen. So that is our celebration for tomorrow. Anyway. All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off here. Wait a minute, I forgot who tonight was. Hang on. Oh, yes, okay. So, all right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off for this evening with Ms. T of Texas. Ms. T of Texas is going to be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me, and place your hand over your heart and join in along with Ms. T as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, Ms. T, for submitting that wonderful rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to hear your version of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style, and then take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email, send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. Oh, my goodness. See, I get thrown off when I take time off, and I just realized that I forgot the book. I'll get it here in just a minute. I was running through the show in the back of my head, and I went, I know I'm forgetting something. Yeah, I figured out what I'm forgetting. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about tonight's headline sponsor, which is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government, as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, Take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Take a look at this thing. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant, not to mention the fact that there is no cheap glue here binding. No cheap glue binding. This is stitched all the way through the leather, and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if you have a problem with it, you can send it back to the manufacturer, and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. My youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained herein will help you to study for your civics exam or civics badge in scouting. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and pick up your rounded, sexy rounded corner thingy that liberals, of course, never read. And it constantly bites them in the butt, at least according to 3 Chevy over on Rumble. Anyway, yeah, head on off to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours today. Also, don't forget to check out the rest of what the Institute on the Constitution has in their offerings, and I appreciate them for allowing me to be a brand affiliate. All right, I'm going to step away for just a second to get a hold of the book. There we go. Aye. All right, what is today? So I've got to even find it. Let's see. Yeah. Just a second. What are we looking at? We're looking at April 19th. I'm missing the. There we go. All right. Oh, yes. Okay. Well, that's a good thing that we were going to be talking about this. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, things were a little slow today in the news front, and I can tell you why, because obviously it is the greatest of weekends, the rising of our dear Lord Jesus Christ, who died for our sins on the cross, was laid to rest in the tomb, and on the 3rd day rose again in fulfillment of the scriptures. So, and so, yes, it is a fantastic day indeed tomorrow. Now, what's interesting is that day, the actual day that we celebrated kind of moves around based on the, I think it's the Gregorian calendar. But anyway, it kind of moves around, and it's really late this year. At least, most of the time it's in March, end of March, but this year, or the first part of April, now it's like all the way down toward almost the end of April. So it's really, really far out, or really late in the year this year, which is it throws me off all the time, when it comes to that. But anyway. All right, well, let's go ahead and get the next segment going. The segment that I almost forgot. Here we go. On this day in American history. And of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. Chock full of all kinds of information, factoids, and stuff about our wonderful founding. It's, yeah. So, here today, we're going to talk about the shot heard round the world. On April 19th, 1775, the American Revolution began in the villages of Lexington and Concord near Boston, Massachusetts. The previous night saw 700 British troops march out of Boston with orders to seize any colonial weapons they might find. Side note here, folks, this is why the Second Amendment exists. Just letting you know. All right. All right. Here we go. By dawn, the next morning, they had reached Lexington, where they found about 75 American Minutemen waiting for them on the village green. "Do not fire unless fired upon," Captain Jonas Parker ordered the patriots. "But if they mean to have war, let it begin here." The British commander ordered the Americans to lay down their arms. "You damned rebels, disperse," he cried. And the outnumbered colonists grudgingly began to drift away. Suddenly, someone fired a shot. No one really knows who, and the surprised British ranks let loose a volley. A few seconds later, 8 dead and 10 wounded Minutemen lay on Lexington Green. The Redcoats continued up the road to Concord, where hundreds of Americans had gathered. Another small battle ensued before the British decided that it was time to return to Boston. Then the real fighting began. The road back to Lexington became a nightmarish gauntlet of deadly fire for the Redcoats as the Americans lay in ambush between trees, rocks, and woodpiles. The helpless British columns endured the sniping nearly all the way back to Boston. When the day was over, about 250 of the King's men had been killed or wounded. The colonists lost about 90. News of the conflict caused militiamen all over New England to shoulder their muskets and tramp toward Boston. The struggle for independence had begun. As Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote in his famous poem Concord Hymn, the Americans had fired the shot, heard round the world. That is today's On This Day in American History. You know, we discussed this. I talked about this a while ago. Talked about that event. That the Redcoats were actually heading not just to grab the arms of the Americans, but it was more of a stockpile that they had heard about and were attempting to confiscate of gunpowder, musket balls, etc. And they were walking up or going up there in terms of going to get it. And Samuel Adams, the Sons of Liberty, they're the ones that negotiated, or I wouldn't say negotiated necessarily, but created that little ambush scenario to stop them. And that, realistically, folks, is why we have the Second Amendment today. And also, too, keep in mind that, as I've told you before, anyone who reads the first 10 amendments to our Constitution, which, by the way, James Madison felt weren't required. He actually felt that they were not something that had to be enumerated, but he obviously was overruled. And the first 10 amendments were basically taken directly from the interactions of the British Army during the Revolutionary War, which was still fresh in many people's minds, even though it had been, almost 15 years since it had happened by the time by the time the Constitution was actually written. A lot of people seem to have forgotten over the fact that that the first 10 amendments are taken almost directly from the atrocities that were perpetrated on the American colonists during and thereafter of the American Revolutionary War. That these people, these men who wrote the Constitution of the United States and the first 10 amendments were were essentially, like I said, fresh. It was fresh, quote unquote, in their minds with regards to it. And not a lot of people, not a lot of people are really aware of that fact. They weren't taught that in school. I know I certainly wasn't taught that in school with regards to the fact that, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, all of that was based off of the entire time during the British colonies and their fight for independence. Almost every single one of those came from some atrocity that had been perpetrated upon the American colonists during the Revolutionary War. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and start off here. So the White House has decided to troll again. This time they took on the New York Times. So, this whole thing about this Senator Chris Van Hollen, who went down and sat with Garcia. Okay. Well, in this photograph, you can obviously see on the table there's just water glasses and things of that nature. Well, first of all, let me just point out that the senator, the headline written by the New York Times, leftist rag, of course. The headline there has been corrected by the White House, posting on X. Basically says, Senator meets with deported in El Salvador. And they also called out that he is an MS-13 illegal alien who's never coming back, is what they wrote. Now, this caused a bit of an uproar. Quite a bit of an uproar, actually, on the left. They were all like, oh my gosh, it shows the White House's contempt of court. No, all it did is it just corrected what was obviously an incorrect headline by the New York Times. And, threw in a couple of facts. Now, there's supposedly a picture roaming around of Trump holding up a photo of this man's hand and the tattoos that are on his fingers, in between his knuckles, his first and second knuckles, I guess, is basically showing up right in here. And demonstrating what those tattoos actually demonstrate, or actually are representative of. And that happens to be apparently MS-13. Well, there's been some running around on the socials. They've been talking about how it was doctored and so on and so forth, but yet there's photos of the man holding his child, and on that same hand has the same tattoos on him. Now, granted, it doesn't say MS-13 on his hand. That was, again, an interpretation that was put out there. But you can definitely see that the man's hand does have gang-affiliated tattoos on the guy's hand. And, yeah. So anyway, there also was apparently a bit of a scandal that came out with regards to Chris Van Hollen being there. As I pointed out to you, the photograph that you see here has mainly just water in it, meaning there's water sitting on the table. But apparently there's another one, which I couldn't find. I wasn't even really bothering to look that hard, but there's some sort of a photo where there were actually margaritas that were brought to the table. And Van Hollen has gone on a little bit of an apology tour, although, Democrats never really apologize for anything, but he apparently is trying to explain away the quote unquote Margarita Gate. And so he, of course, is blaming it on some other some other factors. Well, you know what? I will just let him tell you all about it here.
Now I just want to take a moment. I hadn't planned to do this, but as I was landing on the airplane, I got a transcript of some questions President Trump was asked at the White House today about what I would call Margarita-gate. I don't know if you guys have been following this, but President Bukele, after I met with Kilmar, did this tweet showing us at a table with these two glasses. So here's what happened. When I first sat down with Kilmar, we just had glasses of water on the table. I think maybe some coffee. And as we were talking, one of the government people came over and deposited two other glasses on the table with ice, and I don't know if it was salt or sugar around the top, but they look like margaritas. And if you look at the one they put in front of Kilmar, it actually had a little less liquid than the one in front of me, to try to make it look, I assume, like he drank out of it. Let me just be very clear. Neither of us touched the drinks that were in front of us. And if you want to play a little Sherlock Holmes, I'll tell you how you can know that. So if you look at the video or the picture I sent out from the beginning of our meeting, you'll see there are no glasses on the table. So you'll see in later videos they are on the table. But they made a little mistake, or some people are very careful, right? If you sip out of one of those glasses, some of whatever it was, salt or sugar, would disappear. You would see a gap. There's no gap. Nobody drank any margaritas or sugar water or whatever it is. But this is a lesson into the lengths that President Bukele will do to deceive people about what's going on. And it's also shows the lengths that the Trump administration and the president will go to, because when he was asked about a reporter about this, he just went along for the ride.
Okay, first question. Why would you feel like you would need to explain that away? I mean, who cares? I'm trying to understand why it would be that big of a deal to him. I mean, apparently and obviously he's trying to compensate or something, cover up for something with regards to this. And of course he's calling out the president, the El Salvadoran president, and our own president in terms of what the heck is going on here. I'm confused. I really am. I need to understand realistically why would that even matter? Honestly, I'm just trying to understand why it would even matter. All he could just say is that, hey, you know what? They put him in front of us. We didn't touch him. That's it. But he's sitting there and he's trying to explain all of this away. And, basically, for whatever reason, try to make this out to be something bigger than what it actually is. Which honestly is nothing. I mean, I couldn't care less if he had a margarita. I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't care less about it. And even if they were, I mean, it still doesn't matter. Like he's pointing out, I mean, the president of El Salvador already said, no, he's not coming back. It's just, really? I don't know. Anyway, it's just, they seem to be, in a way, they seem to be interested in terms of Van Hollen's office to try and distance the senator from this visit. Apparently, he sounds like the statement. I mean, just from that one piece, it sounds like he's trying to make an apologetic statement with regard to it. And he's trying to make it out to be like it's, again, it's, oh, no, they set me up. They set me up on this. Even though, well, it just, I mean, again, first of all, the fact that you were down there, Van Hollen, the fact that you even took the additional time and space to head down there and go down there when your state, your actual constituency, your actual voting constituent, an American citizen, mother of a woman who was killed by an illegal MS-13 gang member in your state, and you ignore. And yet you're more interested in the fact that this El Salvadoran citizen who was deported, which, by the way, there's more information that's coming out with regards to this, that the initial order for him to be withheld and not sent to El Salvador actually is likely rescinded the minute that MS-13 was designated a terrorist organization. And so he could have been deported anyway. It really wouldn't have mattered. But he's an El Salvadoran citizen. He's not even an American citizen. He was here illegally, found by 2 judges, not 1, but 2. And I've even asked people on X, because many people are like, if due process ends in this country. What due process was he not given? Somebody just needs to explain to me what due process was not provided to this individual. He went through 2 court appearances. He was given the opportunity and was found not only to be illegal, but also set to be deported. And, anyway, it just, it's frustrating, but he apparently appears to be, rather than being completely gung-ho on all of this, now that we're starting to find out more and more about this gentleman's checkered past, which we talked about last night. Just anyway. So this guy, he just sounds like he's trying to essentially, we'll just call it cover up, maybe, for his particular trip, I suppose. So yeah, it's like, come on, folks. I want somebody to explain to me where if he did not have his day in court, if he had not been in front of 2 immigration judges already, I mean, outside of the fact that if you're caught illegally at the border, you're immediately sent back anyway. So even if he was living inside the United States, he still should have been sent back regardless. And anyway, Tom Holman, actually, I got a video of Tom Holman who explains it a little bit better than I am going to here in just a few minutes. But before I go too much farther than that, because of this trip, a lot of people are starting to ask, especially those on the right, are starting to ask, doesn't this possibly have Logan Act charges over this attempt for him to go down there to free this MS-13 gang member? And once again, I'm just going to point this out. So there's a movement afoot. People, so many people are not familiar with the Logan Act and what it actually entails. Now, we discussed this on this program. Okay. We discussed this on this program, and I hate to tell you this, but no, he did not violate the Logan Act just like Trump didn't violate the Logan Act when he was talking to Israel beforehand, before he got fully elected. I'm sorry, but he did not do it, and I'll explain. Here it is. Here's the Logan Act right here on the Cornell Law School, which we go to all the time, but it basically says, and I'm going to read it to you because it's just one small paragraph, and it's really not that hard to understand. It says, any citizen of the United States, wherever he may be, who, without the authority of the United States, directly or indirectly commences or carries on any correspondence or intercourse with any foreign government or any office or agent thereof. And here's the key points to this, okay? With intent to influence the measures or conduct of any foreign government or of any officer or agent thereof, and this is the key point, in relation to any disputes or controversies with the United States. Van Hollen was not down there doing anything in relation to any disputes or controversies with regards to the United States. We are not in conflict with El Salvador. We are not in any kind of a dispute with El Salvador. It's pretty damn clear. I mean, we're not in any kind of dispute. We're not in any kind of controversy. We're not in war with them. There's nothing there. That's no different than, Donald Trump talking to Israel about the Middle East and the war in Gaza. We're not in conflict with Israel. Therefore, the Logan Act doesn't apply. It doesn't apply here, period. Now, if we were at war with one of these countries, absolutely, and Van Hollen went there without our permission to do this, then yeah, absolutely. But, people don't seem to understand the Logan Act has only been applied twice in history. Both times never came to any sort of a conclusion in court. In fact, it was even brought up in court, but it never went anywhere. And the reason being is because of the plain and simple fact that it's difficult, if not near impossible, to enforce this. You cannot sit here and tell me that we're in any kind of a dispute with El Salvador. We're not. It doesn't apply. It clearly doesn't apply here. Now, all of that being said, okay, keep in mind, this wasn't private correspondence either. He went down there to talk, and it wasn't with a foreign government, which is what this is named right here at 18 U.S. Code 953. He's not trying to, do anything in terms of a dispute. All he was doing realistically, and it's not like I agree with his position in terms of going down there. I mean, the guy clearly was mistaken over the reasons as to why this gentleman was down there. But the point is, if you're going to sit here and try to warp the law to get one person in trouble, then you have to do it for everybody. One standard applies across the board to everyone. And if you're not going after people like John Kerry or Jane Fonda or, again, Donald Trump when he was not in office, then if you can't go after them, you can't go after him for this. Me personally, I think that it should be one of those things that's on the books that needs to be either amended and stiffened and toughened up, or just get rid of it. One or the other. Because it's never really going to be used in this particular case. And the historical significance of this particular scenario is essentially that it was put in by John Adams because of the fact that there was a private citizen. We were potentially going to war with France, but we were definitely in a trade war situation with France. And this private citizen, he was a business person. went to France to try and negotiate some trade deals and ended up getting into trouble because the government at the time, again, President Adams at the time, I think it was John Adams, not John Quincy, but John Adams. And he at the time felt that this was a bit of a problem. And so Congress created this Logan Act in order to try and prevent that from happening. But again, the conditions are very clear. We have to be in sort of a dispute or a controversy with the United States and that other country. We're not. We're not in a controversial dispute over this. In fact, President Trump kind of agrees with the president of El Salvador on this, that he's an El Salvadoran detainee, that he's a citizen of theirs, and that's it. That's all there is to it. He can ask, Donald Trump can ask, he can put a plane down there if El Salvador decided to hand him back, which, by the way, if they did, chances are the guy would come back here, have a hearing, and then immediately get re-deported again, but somewhere other than El Salvador, to follow and in compliance with quote unquote the law. But here's the deal. Again, all of that is tossed out because the conditions are changed. He wasn't considered a terrorist, a part of a terrorist organization prior to this. So that's where the stay order came into play. But it was also a stay order, as I explained last night, that was directly in reference to the fact that he didn't want an enemy gang to come in and, harm him or his family with regards to all of this. He didn't want that because obviously he was afraid for his life. It was a rival gang, and the one rival gang that he named is no longer active in El Salvador. So even that just pulls it away. So yeah, this guy's not coming back anytime soon. All right. Buddy, I'm sorry, but it says right here, in relation to any disputes or controversies with the United States. That's that clear as a bell. I'm sorry. It does need to be a conflict, a dispute or controversies. That's it. There's no other question. I mean, there's no other way to read this. There's no other way to read this. We have to be in some sort of a dispute or a controversy or whatever with the other foreign government in order for this to be a bit of a problem. Sorry. It's just that's the way it reads. Poorly written, I'll admit, poorly written, but that's the way it reads. All right. So, in terms of waking up this morning to reality, well, I mean, obviously Van Hollen is waking up to reality, but here we have another one waking up to reality. Remember how I was telling you that Boasberg, the conversation that I've been having with people on X in regards to Boasberg and how it was Boasberg's wrong situation. So in terms of his was the wrong venue. And I pointed that out last night in the opinion, the SCOTUS opinion. Well, apparently Boasberg got the message because last night, Friday, or yesterday, I should say, he actually denied an emergency request by the ACLU to block the imminent deportation flights under the Alien Enemies Act. And in fact, he denied it because of the fact, and I got to find his quote here. He goes, quote, "I'm sympathetic to your conundrum, but I don't think I have the power to do anything about it." He's finally waking up to the reality that he can't do anything. Okay. So the judge noted the earlier Supreme Court ruling from this month, which lifted his pause or took out his temporary restraining order with the Trump administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act, and that it determined that, quote, if detainees are confined in Texas, the venue is improper in the District of Columbia, which, again, as I pointed out, that's the whole habeas corpus. You have to be present in the courtroom in order to make these claims. And so therefore you need to be there. Well, these detainees are in Texas. And that's what the Supreme Court was saying, that immigration law states that you have to be there in person to make the claim and to be in court to make these claims and to try and stop your deportation. You're supposed to be there. If you're not there, then you're in the wrong venue, which District of Columbia was the wrong venue. So he finally is waking up to this fact. And he's like, I'm sorry, but I can't issue an emergency stay because I've been told by the Supreme Court I'm not in the right place. I'm not the right place for this. Which, of course, in my mind is the argument and the same argument that, hey, it's time for you to, realize that you need to just end this, and especially the contempt orders that you claim that you think you're going to get. But anyway, now he did mention that the Trump administration said that there wouldn't be any deportation flights under this that would take place last night, nor did they say that Saturday, they kind of back and forth about it in terms of Saturday. At first they said no, and then they said, well, maybe. But all of that, of course, is going to be stopped. And it's going to be stopped because of the fact that SCOTUS has finally weighed in on this. Now, I have maintained through all of my social media accounts and everything here that the only court that can ride herd on either the executive branch or the legislative branch is the Supreme Court of the United States. And so now the Supreme Court, in a 7-2 order, has blocked temporarily any new deportations of any Venezuelans in Texas under the Alien Enemies Act. Now, keep in mind, an earlier order or an earlier opinion, and I pointed this out last night, points out that the Alien Enemies Act is largely not able to be reviewed under the judicial review idea. But I think what you're going to end up with is this alongside of the hearing of oral arguments on May 15th about another executive order that Trump has. There's some question as to whether or not they're actually, regarding birthright citizenship, there is some question as to whether or not any of that is all going to be even remotely taken under. Because what is happening here is essentially the idea that, again, the D.C. court systems and these federal court, district court judges are overstepping their bounds. And they've been pushing, the Supreme Court has basically been telling them, even though the mainstream media is not talking about this, but the Supreme Court has essentially said in both of their decisions under these things that the district courts have probably overstepped their bounds. And so this might be realistically on the 15th of May, this might be realistically where these things are going to end up going. In terms of conversations and questioning, there might be a response back to basically say, hey, you know what, district courts, you guys overstepped your boundaries here. And the request of the district courts to put in what are called universal injunctions, okay, which essentially are injunctions that they, and we've talked about this on the program before too, that have only come out in recent times. They have not been supported in history. There are Supreme Court cases that that are present on the books that have denied the idea of universal injunctions, although that wasn't what they were particularly called back then. But now the universal injunction seems to be a thing of the modern era. And so this is something that the Supreme Court is going to have to undertake and take up with regards to all of this. And so I have a feeling that's going to be one of the things that they're going to be discussing here in the near future. Now, keep in mind, it's been pointed out by several people that the Supreme Court doesn't usually hear cases, doesn't usually have oral arguments as late as May. Typically, it's April that they wind down all of the oral arguments, and they start shifting from the April-May timeframe to be May and June, where they are actually writing opinions on all of the cases that they had seen and heard before. And so just the mere fact that SCOTUS is actually going around and granting this kind of a scenario, okay, in terms of hearing another case this late in the game, it kind of indicates that the justices are much more aware of what's going on. Now, also keep in mind too that the that 9-0 decision, in my mind, that 9-0 decision where they literally stated, and this was Justice Sotomayor who wrote the concurrent opinion, where she basically said clearly that the district courts may have overstepped their bounds. I have a feeling the entire Supreme Court is on the entirety of the scenario, and they might actually lean Trump's way in terms of the blanket universal orders that seem to be coming out from a lot of these, what they would consider rogue justices that are out there. But we're going to have to see. We're definitely going to have to take a look and kind of see. Well, Tom Homan appeared on a couple of shows. The first one, obviously, in regards to some of this stuff, was on, CNN's Caitlin Collins, winner chicken dinner on hers. But anyway, here is a clip of him talking to her with regards to the